Hello, I got this camera gimbal from GearBest a little while ago. They provided this one to me for free as a review item, and I was quite interested to check this one out because it's very light and very capable, and it's a 3-axis gimbal for less than $100. Quite interesting, I thought. So let's have a little bit of a look at this, and I'll tell you another reason why I was very interested in this particular one. It's made by HackRC, and it is a STorM32 3-axis brushless gimbal, blah blah blah. And when I saw this, I thought, hey, this looks kind of familiar, this STorM32. I think I've seen that before. And sure enough, it was something that I've seen on some guy's website quite a while ago. And back in the day, this is about a year and a half ago now, I got a Mobius and I thought I'd try making my own camera gimbal for it because I noticed that you could detach this part of the Mobius. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to make a very, very small gimbal just for this and have the small brushless motors that you find in CD-ROM drives like that, and use those because they are you can use the same kind of controllers for these to turn them, and it would all be very light and very small and very cool. So my thinking along those lines brought me to this guy's site. So this is, at least he goes by the name Ollie W on the internet and also on RC groups. And he had made just such a thing. And so I thought, oh great, I'll just copy what he did. But one thing that put me off was this little bit here, rewound disk drive motors. So you've got to mess around rewinding the poles inside the motors. So for that reason, I never really got ahead with that project, and I just sort of put it off and got some normal gimbal motors and made that one out of wood that I made a video about last year. Anyway, so that's what led me to this website. But I found it very interesting, and I read a whole lot of other stuff on this website, and he's gone into a lot of detail on the theory of all this stuff. So if you want to know all the gory details about how this stuff works, you can see it on that page. And he has also gone into some detail on this page about Kalman filtering and other ways of fusing the values that you get from the sensors on these kind of things. And this one I just discovered yesterday, actually. Or today rather, while I was getting ready for this video. There's this STM32 Hello World page here, and he's looking at a few development boards, and I was just scrolling down this before, and I noticed this one here that I bought a little while ago. I have one of those right here, and yeah, so I thought, oh well, I'll use this guy's how-to on how to set this up. So he's gone into all kinds of detail about this as well. Step-by-step guide to set up this toolchain and get a project up and running. And as if that's not enough, he has also made a BL Heli flashing tool for Scilab's ESCs. And this is a bit old now, so I think most people are using the BL Heli suite, which is the thing at the moment. But he's also gone into all the details of this, and he had a hardware version of that where you could use this thing without a computer to set up your parameters on your ESCs. And he's done this BL Heli tool as well, which I'm not sure how much of this was used in BL Heli suite, if any, I'm not sure. But suffice to say, this guy is really switched on. And the gimbal controller that he's cooked up is very, very capable. And the reason I say that is because it's actually using 2 IMUs. So we'll get to that in a little bit as well. But if you look for the STorM32 brushless gimbal controller today, you'll probably be taken to this page rather than Ollie's blog that I was looking at just before. And this page has a lot of info too. And one of these videos here, this one in particular, when I saw it, I thought, wow, that is really, really a well done gimbal. So I'll just play a little excerpt from this for a moment, just to show you what I mean. Yes, pretty nice job there, isn't it? And just one other page I thought you might like to look at if you're into finding information about this. This is the or a thread on RC groups. So I'll put all the links to this stuff in the video description below. And this is just a running updated page of everything where you can get all the it's like a release notes sort of list and stuff. So that's about all of the Ollie praising that we need to do, I think. And let's get back to looking at this particular one. And yeah, like I say, it's very cheap. Normal price is listed here at $98, which is pretty good for a 3-axis gimbal. I could have sworn that when I was looking at this 6 weeks ago, it was listed as $70, the normal price. So that kind of makes me wonder how much of a, quote, discount this 31% off is. I kind of think that, it's just done that way to look good. But regardless, even for $100, it's a good price, I think. The reason I'd been putting off doing this review for a while is because I didn't have any cameras that could fit on here with the correct weight profile, because this is made for a GoPro camera and I only had 2 Mobiuses at the time. So I bought a GoPro. Just kidding. I ordered a Xiaomi Yi, and in the meantime I lost my 2 Mobiuses anyway. One got rained on when it was stuck up a tree, and the other one I just lost in the long grass. So I was quite happy when the postman arrived this morning and gave me not 1 but 2 new toys to play with, one of which is the aforementioned Xiaomi Yi, which is the right size and shape and weight distribution to fit on here. So we are ready to go with some trial of this gimbal. So to start right from the beginning, this is the box that it arrived in, and it was just inside a plastic bag, and inside the box the stuff was in a bit of bubble wrap. So I feel that the packaging could be done a little bit better for something that's this kind of a delicate item, but fortunately nothing was broken in my one, so everything was good in that respect, for me at least. When I opened the box and started to take things out, there was a what do you call this, a strap with a sort of a GoPro fitting holder thingy on it. And then the next thing out of the box was this little bag of bits, and I thought to myself, oh, okay, we might have some construction to do here, because we've got a bit of a JST wire there, and we've got some screws, and I think there's 8 M3 screws and some which looks like brass standoffs or something. And then we have a strip of 5 female jumper wires there. But then I reached into the box to pull out the next part, and I got a nice surprise, because that was it. Just like that, all built. And I wasn't really afraid of having to build it, of course, you know I'm into building things, but when I took a bit more of a look at this, I thought, wow, I'm kind of glad I didn't have to build this, really, because it's when I built my wooden gimbal, I noticed that putting the wires through those motors like that is a real pain in the ass. And you've got 3 motors to do it for in this gimbal, so it's kind of nice that it was already built up. And you've got the IMU to position on the bottom as well. I noticed the IMU is just stuck on here with foam tape, like that. And this side is a little bit free. Oh, is that foam tape? It doesn't flex. That's interesting. Looks like foam tape, but it doesn't flex like the foam tape I've used. Well, that's interesting, yeah. So that should be fine. And yeah, it's very, very nicely put together. Let's just weigh that while we're fiddling around with it. And it is less than 200 grams. I'm not exactly sure what it was. 190 something, I think. 193. 194 grams, and just if you're going to be using it with the Xiaomi Yi like I am, you can expect to be adding 264 grams to the overall weight of your quadcopter, presuming you're going to be using it for that. What else do we need to look at? So I think I'm going to have to make another video of this showing the setup and stuff, because when I started to look at the setup program, there's a lot of settings. So in my next video I will do that, and I'll also take a look at what we have on this board, which doesn't focus. Oh, come on, not that hard. But suffice to say, there is a 32-bit microcontroller and an IMU on there. Which reminds me, there was actually one other thing in the box which we could take a look at. Well, it's not particularly useful. It's just this piece of paper with some Chinese specs, Chinese labeled specs. You can probably get an idea of what most of those things are there. What is there worth mentioning on here? Not much, really. And on the bottom of the page we can see some outlines. So there's the microcontroller there, and you can see, maybe if we can focus, this says MPU 6050. So you have two IMUs, and that's one feature that I really like about this gimbal controller, and one reason I wanted to check it out. So that reminds me, there's another link that I'll put in the description, and that is a video where Ollie is showing 3 reasons why you would want to have 2 IMUs on the gimbal, one on the holder and one on the base where the camera is as well. Very good reasons. So I'll let you check that out. And what are we going to do here? I don't know what I can do, but I think I'll just stick this Xiaomi Yi on. And I did notice that this hole in the plate here did not fit on the Xiaomi Yi, so I guess the GoPro lens is a little bit smaller than this. It does fit on now because I've sort of sanded out a little bit of the inside with the Dremel, but I'm gonna have to sand out more if I want to get it sitting down flat, because the front face of the Xiaomi Yi sort of slants outward a little bit like that at the base. Unfortunately though, if you look at the amount of material that we have left at the top and the bottom of this strap, there's not really much left, so I think I'm just going to use it like that. Or I may just foam tape it on there and leave it with foam tape only, because I noticed that when you put the camera on, where's it going to go? It's going to go... What? Oh, that's the bottom. This is the bottom, isn't it? Yes. So the camera, I'm going to want to put that there. If you want to put it all the way over to the left, you're going to find that the strap is going to be coming over the top of the IMU like that. Oops, sorry. So the strap's going to be pressing down on the IMU. I didn't really like that. So one thing I guess you could do now that I think about it is just move it over to the side a little bit, and you could have the strap free of the IMU. That might be alright. I'm not sure how that would affect the balance. It's probably still okay. And there is also a fairly decent hole in the bottom of this. I don't know if this is going to work for a GoPro, but yeah, I think GoPro has a thing in the bottom like that, doesn't it? A screw hole like that. So you could probably also, instead of using the foam tape and the strap, you could just have some kind of a tripod mount thing that screws into the bottom of that to hold it down properly. But I'm just going to go with the foam tape for now. So I have this little piece of wood here that I've set up with some screw holes in the right place to use it, and I'm going to just walk around and try this out before I change any settings, because like I say, there's a lot of settings, and I did notice one thing that made me stop before I started fiddling with the settings, and that is that, if you look on here, the firmware that's running on here is release 0.70, which is going back a bit now. If we look at the on here, there is a list of when that stuff was released. So version 0.7 was released on the 4th of April last year. So that's not all that long ago really, but you can see there's a lot of development going on here. So there's been a good dozen or so versions released since then. So obviously I'd like to try the latest one. Oh, this is it here, the latest one there. Well, that's just a couple of weeks ago. So I want to try that, but I also don't want to change anything from what GearBest would send you before I try at least a little bit of the default settings first. And also just in case I screw it up when I flash the new firmware. That's the other reason. Yeah, so I'm just going to put this on that stick, and I'm going to walk around a bit, and I'm going to put this on the back of the stick and another mount, so we can get the view from 2 cameras and we can compare what you would see without the gimbal with this one, and what the gimbal is seeing from there. I should also mention another thing I noticed about this when I was trying it a little bit earlier, and that is that the default configuration is that it's set up to be used like that, which is understandable, but don't think that you can set it up on top of your quadcopter and use it like this without having to change some settings. When I tried it like that, it after the initialization was complete, and it actually beeps, by the way, so it's quite good that you have some audible feedback to let you know when it's finished initializing and you can move it around. But after that, it just kept trying to turn the pitch upside down, so it's not going to work like in this configuration without some extra changing of the settings in the configuration app. Another issue you may perhaps run into if you're trying to use this in different configurations, for example, you might want to have it like this. Oh, see there, we can't do that, can we? Why can't that go that way? You might want to have it like this, or like, oh, that's a bit more sensible, isn't it? You might want to have it like this on the front of your quadcopter or whatever it is that you put it on. But the wiring is sort of starting to get a little bit obstructed that way, and doesn't go far out to the front in that direction because it gets pulled a little bit tight, and there's not really much room for shuffling these wires around and making it longer, so that's just something to keep in mind. You might have to actually undo some of these zip ties here and let these wires roam a bit more freely than they are in the default configuration. And as far as range of movement goes in the default configuration, we have a pretty good range of movement in the yaw. We have 360 degrees before we start to feel a little bit of resistance, actually a little bit more than 360 degrees, so you can see it's sort of pushing it back from there. So if we say that this is the front, we'd be facing back that way, and we can go all the way around and face back again before we get some resistance at that point. So it's quite nicely set up to do a full 360 degree movement, just only one rotation though. In the roll, you're going to hit at about what looks like about 50 degrees that way, and when the camera's on, it's actually less than 50 degrees that way, so it's around about here, at least with the Xiaomi, you're starting to hit. And I can also feel some other, oh, here we go. There's a bit of tension on here as well. So you're limited to less than 45 degrees in the roll on that direction, it looks like. But once again, you could undo that if you really wanted to. And while we're talking about the default settings, I've just connected this up to the to the computer so we can have a look at one of the default settings that is kind of important. And this connection, the USB connection, is this one here, which is a Mini B, I think. Is that what that is? Whatever that's called. It's the same one as you have on a Mobius. So this is the config app here, and like I say, I'm not going to change any of these settings yet because I just want to show you what you would get out of the box. But I did notice that in the setup tab here, we can see that the default configuration comes with IMU2 set to be off. So it looks like when they've loaded the firmware onto the board, they've simply loaded it on as the default firmware that you would get off Ollie's website, and they haven't changed any settings, and they haven't customized it in any way at all. So I think this is the safest configuration for a more generic controller that doesn't actually have two IMUs, which is a bit of a shame because this one does have two IMUs, and that's really the strength of this controller, in that it can give you a much higher quality of control than just with using one IMU. So at the end of this video, when I show you the demo that I've recorded by carrying it around on the stick, just keep in mind that we're not actually seeing the full potential of the result that this gimbal can provide. I just had to detach the upper plate to get these rather long screws in from the back of it. So it weighs 11 grams, by the way. So I thought I'd just have a look at this while we're at it, and you can see that is the microcontroller there, and the motor drivers there, and of course we have the IMU2 in the upper left there, or in the middle of the screen. And there's a couple of buttons here you can reset, and you also have a button labeled boot 0, which we might have to use when we're going to flash the firmware to the board in the next video, hopefully. And that's just if you've ever flashed the STorM32 flight controllers, you know that sometimes you have to get them into boot mode by bridging a couple of pins. So this is a really nice way to do that. You can just hold the button down instead of having to use something else to connect that, make that connection. So you can just hold them both down, so that would be reset and boot together. Hold them both down and then let go of the reset, and that will start the microcontroller. And then once it's realized that it's in boot mode, you can let them both go. So you can do it all just with the finger. You don't need any jumper wires or anything like that. I thought that was a really nice, user-friendly way to do it. Is there anything else to look at on here? Not really. Oh, so that's the USB control, USB plug there. Same as a Mobius. Yep. Quite nice damping balls, actually. Yeah. Pain in the butt to get back on, though. Anyway, let's do that. Okay, this is just a quick look at what you can expect when you power it up with the default config. There we go. I noticed that when it's off, the camera is touching the top of the thing, so it just, I don't know if it's intentional, but it lifts itself roughly level to begin with. And then it'll beep like that when it's ready. Doesn't take too long. And then we should see, if we give this a bit of a roll, that it's working quite nicely. Pitch I can't really demonstrate too much because I'm going to whack my computer screen, but pitch is fine. And we can see that pan, or yaw, they seem to be calling it pan in the settings, but that is in the follow mode, so it's going to go wherever the heading goes, but in a smoother fashion. So if we're moving like that, it sort of doesn't really go anywhere until we move quicker. Okay, well that's great. So now I just got to take this for a walk outside tomorrow when it's hopefully nice and sunny, and we can look at it in some more interesting situations. Let me just point out one other thing that might be important if you're using the Xiaomi Yi like I was. I wanted to calibrate the gimbal using a glass of water so that I could see where level was, and I wanted to look at the view that the camera was seeing, so I wanted to use the wireless. But as you can see, if you put the camera way over to the left like I did, the wireless button is very difficult to get at. I eventually managed to press it using a 1mm drill bit, so that's just something to keep in mind. Okay. Can't tilt it too far over like that. See, it's going to be hitting the camera. Yeah, you wouldn't really want to have the camera over to the right much further, would you? It's going to hit on it about there. Yeah. Okay. Well, that looks good though. It's really stable. Whoops. Pitch. Good. Yaw. Okay, now this pole over here, I wanted to make this pole subject of a kind of an acceleration test. And then, is it still vertical? Maybe. Alright, go back the other way. Anyways, let's go for a bit of a walk. Hasta la vista. Oops. Okay, that was too far. That was too much pitch downward, so that's definitely confirmation that the second IMU is not in action. And we saw that it also lost the yaw position as well, so I just can't point it too far down. Hey, how's it going? It's a stabilizing gimbal. See? And when I turn it, the white camera doesn't move. Yeah. Well, it doesn't rotate. No, just buy it. Yeah. Cool, eh? Nice day for a rest in the park. Oh, you work over there? Yeah, it's beautiful today. Yeah. I noticed from my earlier tests that the stop and start movement of the yaw can still be a little bit abrupt if you make the movement of the frame abrupt. So if I stop and start quickly, you may still see a sudden, it's not as bad of course, but a sudden start and stop of this one. So I think the operator has to ease into the yaw movements a little bit, ease in and out like that, and I think that would help. Not sure. It's a bit hard to do that with the quadcopter though, isn't it? Anyway, where should we go? Should we go up to the top of the hill? There we go. Look, there's a hat on the ground. free hat. A little bit windy over there. And there it is. Beautiful day in Auckland City. See, the white one, it doesn't move when I shake it like that, even if it's going up and down. See? Nifty, huh? Some complicated mathematics going on inside there. What, nothing? Oh, come on. It's no appreciation for the finer things in life. Grass, that's all I'm interested in. Wobble, wobble, wobble. Wobble, wobble, wobble. So, yeah, I think we're done here. We can head back home.